Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're stepping into a world totally shrouded in mystery, secret symbols, and ancient texts. We're exploring the fascinating, often misunderstood roots of Western esotericism. We're going to trace this massive historical timeline, moving all the way from ancient mysticism right up to modern-day practices, just to understand exactly what the occult is, how it evolved, and why it's still surprisingly prevalent today.
But first, think about this for a second. We live in an era entirely dominated by modern science, logic, and wild technological marvels. So how on earth did ancient magical beliefs and esoteric practices outlast the rise of rational, modernist science? Why didn't they just vanish? Well, to figure that out, we first need to define what we're actually looking at.
According to the sociological framework of scholar Danny L. Jorgensen, when we use the term the occult, we aren't just talking about spooky Hollywood movies. We're talking about specific bodies of knowledge and practice that are purposefully held to be secret, mysterious, or hidden from the uninitiated. It's a world that exists entirely outside the domain of ordinary, everyday understanding. It is, literally, the hidden knowledge.
And let's quickly map out how this hidden knowledge flows through time. We start way back in the 1st century with Gnosticism. Then we see legends like Christian Rosenkreuz in the 14th century sparking these mysterious secret brotherhoods. By the 17th century, boom, we hit the Renaissance, bringing a huge revival of Hermeticism and alchemy. Fast forward to the 19th century, and you get structured organizations like Theosophy and the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn. Finally, all of this morphs into the 1960s Age of Aquarius and pop occultism. It's this continuous, ever-shifting stream of secret wisdom.
Now, navigating this vast historical timeline is pretty wild. As our sources point out, to really grasp this field, you have to look at everything from extremely specialized historical monographs to broad modern sociological research. Scholars literally have to hunt down these 17th century antiquarian volumes that smell like old dust just to decipher a single text, while at the exact same time, they're analyzing modern social trends on the internet.
And just a quick heads up before we go deeper, the umbrella of esotericism covers a massive, diverse range of practices. We're talking everything from the ancient philosophies of Gnosticism and Hermeticism to Jewish Kabbalah, Solomonic magic, the pursuit of alchemy, and all the way to shamanism and postmodern chaos magic. I know, it's a lot to take in, but don't worry, we're going to break down the absolutely crucial concepts.
Section 1. Ancient Roots, Gnosticism and Kabbalah.
So let's kick things off with Gnosticism, which popped up around the 1st century. The really crucial thing to understand here is their worldview. Gnostics believed in a hidden, supreme God of pure divine light, living in a magical realm called the Pleroma. But here's the twist. They believed the material world we actually live in is flawed, a sort of prison created not by that supreme God, but by a lesser, often malevolent deity. Because of this, Gnostics didn't seek salvation through regular churches or traditional teachings. Instead, they sought it through direct, secret, mystical knowledge. They essentially wanted to wake up, remember their true divine nature, and escape the material trap.
Right alongside that, we have Jewish Kabbalah, which is this profoundly deep, esoteric tradition. Kabbalists view God's absolute, unknowable essence as Ein Sof. The story goes that in the beginning, this essence created pure divine light. This light was then placed into special finite containers to actually form the universe. But the light was just too intense, and the containers shattered. This catastrophic shattering spread these tiny divine sparks across the entire universe, fundamentally hiding the divine right inside the material world.
Section 2. The Renaissance Revival, Hermeticism and Alchemy.
Fast forward to the Renaissance, and we see this incredible revival. At the heart of it was Hermeticism, based on the legendary teachings of Hermes Trismegistus. The absolute core of Hermetic thought boils down to this: what happens in the heavens mirrors what happens on earth. You probably heard the phrase as above, so below. They believed in a profound, unbreakable unity between the microcosm, which is us, human beings in our earth, and the macrocosm, the vast universe and the divine. Basically, everything is deeply interconnected.
And building directly on that idea of interconnectedness is alchemy. Now, when most people hear alchemy, they immediately picture early chemists trying to literally turn lead into gold, right? And yeah, for sure, they did pursue physical transmutations. They were searching for the mythical philosopher's stone, rigorously purifying prime matter until it turned red, which meant success. But here's the secret. The physical lab work was actually a mirror for internal work. The true goal of this great work was to perfect the alchemist's own soul, achieve immortality, and unlock a much higher spiritual understanding.
It's also super interesting to see the sharp contrast in how different traditions interact with the unseen world. Take Solomonic magic. This is highly academic, ceremonial magic rooted in the wisdom of King Solomon. It relies on complex rituals, magic circles, swords, and massive medieval textbooks called grimoires just to summon and command specific angels and demons. Now contrast that with shamanism, an ancient practice from places like Siberia and the Amazon. Shamans don't use academic textbooks at all. They use deep trance states, vision quests, and medicinal plants to communicate directly with invisible nature spirits, usually to heal their communities. It's essentially structured ritual versus deep trance.
Section 3. The Modern Occult Revival.
Moving into the modern era, scholar Mircea Eliade noted a massive, almost paradoxical explosion of the occult, and it basically split into two completely opposite camps. On one side, you've got the traditionalists, championed by thinkers like René Guénon. They had a really pessimistic view. They believed the modern, materialistic world was hurtling toward absolute disaster and desperately needed a severe cosmic renewal. On the total flip side, you have pop occultism. Think 1960s American youth culture, the age of Aquarius. This was incredibly optimistic, blending astrology and mysticism into a highly accessible, popular spiritual renewal.
And out of this modern melting pot emerged something entirely postmodern: chaos magic. Chaos magicians completely flipped the script. For them, beliefs aren't rigid rules you have to follow, they're just tools. You adopt a belief to get a specific magical result, and then you just toss it out when you're done. Symbols and astrology aren't literal truths, they're just functional aids to focus the mind. Chaos magic boldly declares there is no absolute fixed truth, urging people to break free from societal norms and use things like meditation and sigils to unlock their potential. It's a highly pragmatic, whatever works kind of mysticism.
Section 4. Tarot and Postmodern Meaning.
So, looping back to that question we asked at the very beginning, why does this hidden knowledge survive today? Well, Danielle Jorgensen's research provides a really fantastic insight. Look, modernist science and rationality undeniably triumphed in explaining the physical mechanics of our world. We all know that. However, science just couldn't comprehensively explain the entirety of the human emotional and existential experience. Because it left those gaps, those big questions of meaning, purpose, and inner truth. Esoteric and occult interpretations remained a persistent, vital part of modern society. They step in and offer alternative realities right where science falls silent.
And the absolute secret to its survival is adaptation. Take the tarot, for example. Back in the 19th century, it was this highly secretive practice, completely locked behind the closed doors of esoteric orders like the Golden Dawn. But today, the tarot has been completely revitalized. It's transformed into a widespread tool used almost like psychotherapy. People today aren't necessarily using tarot cards to cast ancient spells, they're using them as counseling rituals, to find existential meaning, navigate their relationships, and just make sense of their daily lives.
We see this exact kind of adaptation everywhere. New religious movements and practices, ranging from Scientology to modern witchcraft and neo-paganism, borrow heavily from these ancient Western occult traditions. But they don't just blindly copy the past. They reshape these traditions to deal significantly with contemporary human existence. They're using ancient frameworks to address highly modern issues, things like evolving gender roles, environmental concerns, and personal empowerment. The core of the esoteric community is still very much alive, dynamically reinterpreting its own history for today's world.
So, I'm going to leave you with this final thought to chew on. If science so perfectly explains the physical mechanics of the world around us, why does magic in all these wild and varied forms still survive and thrive in our postmodern minds today? Well, maybe it's because as long as we humans are seeking deeper existential meaning, genuine connection, and a way to understand the profound mysteries of our own consciousness, we're always going to reach for the hidden knowledge. Thanks for hanging out with me on this explainer. Keep questioning everything, and I'll catch you next time.